I am telling you, boy. Before we get your take on the national championship game, people are commenting and asking about Kellen Mond's return to Texas A&M. Do you have any thoughts there, what he should do, or have heard anything?
I haven't. I wonder about that too. I think he's probably, it's a great question. I think he's still kind of trying to figure it out. And I give Kellen a lot of credit. He really matured this year, and I thought he certainly played better. Now, Ryan McCullum in that offensive line mentioned today that he is going to the NFL. The Maroon Goons, as they call them, that offensive line, and that line was good. Listen, if you're up there with Alabama and Notre Dame for the Joe Moore Award, and you got something going on up front, and A&M was able to do that. I think a lot of this is going to depend, Mark, on just kind of what he hears as far as I'm sure Jimbo Fisher would get him a honest NFL grade. But I tell you, with these quarterbacks who are coming out, some of these guys really, Mark, would help themselves to come back another year. I mean, look, Najee Harris to me is a poster child for that, coming back another year. And listen, would it shock you if Najee went toward the end of the first round, or certainly at the top of the second? At that point, if the team's looking for a dependable running back, and listen, I've really wondered this too. I don't think he will, but I wondered about Mac Jones. Would Mac Jones be better to come back another year? Now that would raise a real question with Bryce Young. Would you be able to keep him if he did? But as far as Kellen Mond is concerned, Kellen got better, true dual threat. And that's going to be one of the ones to look at. But nothing really that's new on that. He's still got time, obviously, to make up his mind a few more days. So I would be quite interested to know what he's going to do.
Got Brent Baird on the line to wrap up our SEC live show, and I'll stick around to take your calls after Brent finishes up our end of the conversation here, but I'll take your calls here in just a minute. But Brent, I got to say that we came close to seeing Alabama Clemson Part 5 during the playoff era, and that has turned into quite the national rivalry in postseason play. But if you take both the current landscape and the power brokers and combine it with the historic, I don't think there's a matchup that can touch Ohio State and Alabama. They're the two players that own the sport, both currently and historically, if you're going to combine the two. And it should be quite the spectacle with all those athletes on the field. Now, Alabama, not surprisingly, is a 8-point favorite. I think it's just a testament to the consistency of excellence throughout the season. They've looked like the best team.
Yeah.
Pretty much they stepped on the field in week 1 against Missouri. Ohio State, we knew what they are from a talent perspective, but they kind of slopped through their 6 games. They did play a decent Indiana team, played a decent Northwestern team, even though they're underrated. Didn't show us much offensively against the Wildcats. Then, boom, they put it all together, and wow, really laid the wood to Clemson. I don't know that too many people anticipated that.
No.
I didn't.
No.
They dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides. Travis Etienne rushed for like 28 yards. And the rushing game was just outstanding. And I haven't even mentioned Justin Fields and the passing attack. But we saw the lightning strike once. Not that they're not capable of playing like that, but Bama's just been a machine. So again, I think the 8 points is justified, even though this is just a power matchup for the ages in terms of, again, a brand name throughout history.
And I think the difference here is that you've got two teams who've really made a commitment to football. Tom Luginbill made a statement on radio that I heard about 2 or 3 years ago that really rung true with me. And his statement was Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. And I think at that time he said he thought Georgia would join the crew. or three of the teams that really made a commitment to football that is supported from the president down to the janitorial staff. And that's not to disparage the janitorial staff, but I think the point is everybody is going all out to support football. And when you do that at these schools, it actually helps some of your other sports. So I think the teams that we just mentioned are the ones that have got the elite rosters and they've got elite talent. Now, look, I understand that people are getting tired of the same old teams. The mantra would be, you need to beat them in order for that to happen. Now, I'm still a playoff guy that when the season's expanded to 8 to see how that, I think that would help a lot of things, but that's discussion on another day. Look, this is a great matchup. There's no question about that. And I also don't have any doubt Ohio State can win this game. And I know Nick Saban and Alabama are aware of that. I think some things to keep in mind would certainly be the Alabama wide receivers and the Ohio State defensive backs. Ohio State's 116th in the nation in passing. They're allowing 261 yards a game. Bama can certainly take advantage of that. Even though the DBs took away Amari Rogers at Clemson, Bama has multiple wide receivers. Now with Jalen Waddle coming back, and I can tell you, Mark, as you know, that is a game changer. Waddle is even at 70%, probably better than some wide receivers at 100%, frankly. And even as a decoy, they've got to be able to pay attention to him. So, and you mentioned Justin Fields a few minutes ago, and rightly so. He against Indiana Northwestern, 5 picks and 8 sacks in those 2 games, and that's a concern. Mac Jones is 32 touchdowns and 4 picks. Now that pales in comparison to what even the situation at Florida has had in recruiting there with their passing attack. But at the same time, Trey Sermon has been unbelievable, over 500 yards in the last couple of games. Pete Werner, the linebacker, their leading tackler, really covers well against tight ends and running backs. You can bet he'll be on Najee Harris a good bit. I think one of the bigger matchups too, Haskell Garrett, defensive tackle, versus Chris Owen for Alabama. I think if Landon Dickerson was still playing instead of being hurt in the SEC championship game, that would make a difference. But I think that's really one to watch. Owens is he's a veteran and he does okay. But watch Ohio State try to take advantage of that. And listen, why I think the secondary for Ohio State is susceptible, man, their front 7 on defense is unbelievable. Probably about every one of those guys are going to be in the NFL at some point. Another matchup is Shaun Wade versus Devontae Smith, who won the Heisman. Wade is from Jacksonville, Mark, and we follow his career for a while. He's very good. Now, who in the world can cover Devontae Smith is another situation there. We'll be very curious what Kerry Combs has in play for Alabama. But again, probably this is another line of scrimmage game. I know people get tired of that, but that's just the way that it is. Bama's offensive line, which is their strongest unit against the Buckeye defensive line, I think will tell the tale of this. People have asked, will Sarkisian going to Texas affect this game? I really don't think it will. I think they're professional enough to where they will work that out and they will be fine. Who his replacement will be interesting. Bill O'Brien's been mentioned. Adam Geis. Can you imagine, Mark, the number of resumes on Nick Saban's desk for offensive coordinator? I'd love to be a fly on the wall but be able to look at that. But look, I still think Bama wins a close game because I still think they're probably the better team. but man, I give Ohio State a lot of credit for being there and where that's going to be. And let's not forget the college football awards are on tomorrow night. Mark Rogers also should get a college football award tomorrow night from something. I'm sure we have enough people together to get that done, and maybe your daughters too. But look, the Joe Moore Award winner, the Heisman for Smith, the Broyles Award for Sark, the Unitas Golden Arm Award for Mac Jones. Now look, Alabama's enjoying that. I'm sure Ohio State is enjoying it too because they'll give them all kinds of motivation in the game. But look, Mark, I'm with you as far as promise for a good game between two of the best brands there's ever been. That's what we have to look forward to on Monday night.
There it is, Brent. We always appreciate the conversation with Brent. He's a wealth of knowledge, provides us in the media with an exhaustive collection of notes on a daily basis that is just phenomenal for nerds like myself that want to know every little personnel update and stat
absolutely
possible. It is tremendous, and I thank you for that, Brent, and more so than that, the tremendous conversation that you provide with us each and every time.
Mark, always fun. Listen, again, and we can't say this enough, what's happened this year has been a true miracle, is to be able to get to this point, and we're one game away. I mean, we know the SEC played 69 of 71 games, and give Greg Sankey and his crew a lot of credit for that. Also, the TV money didn't help either, did it, Mark? But the reality is we really need to be grateful for getting this year in and for what we've learned from this year and what we can take with us after this year is over, and the credit for the officials, the medical crew, the coaches, and everybody involved in these schools. It frankly has been an amazing year. And look, I know everybody will want to put an asterisk by this year, but I can tell you what, Mark, whoever wins that championship on Monday night, you go to that team after that game's over and tell them this year's an asterisk, okay? I never do that.
Was it a big shock that we arrived with those four teams, especially three of them? I think we could play 12, we could play 18 games, we could extend the season, to 30 games, and we're probably going to show up with those three teams and somebody else.
Probably, but I still want it in terms of fairness, accessibility. And the other thing is, and again, this is sermon on the other day too, before we get started here, but look, that is we're having way too many opt-outs. And I think in order to save the bowls, and to save some of these schools at the end of the year, you're going to have something that these kids can play in, Mark, that means something. And for instance, real quick as we go, Mark, if Florida and Oklahoma was a quarterfinal playoff game, how much better would that game have been than how it ended up?
Yeah, when that one was announced, not thinking about the opt-outs and not knowing what was about to come, I thought, oh my goodness, I got to see this game, of course.
Absolutely. And after you watch Oklahoma play, and I get Sooner fans too, they would have been a tough out in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people would have liked to have played Oklahoma at the end of the year.
Brent Beard, First Coast News, also College Sports Today. Brent, it's always an honor, always a privilege, always a great conversation, sir.
You too, brother. Take care. We'll look forward to talking soon.